What we saw early on was coaching applicable primarily to individuals. Even in an organizational setting, it was reserved for C-suite or, mind you, quite remedial. In other words, if there was a problem, you would get a coach. Right now, the tenor changed very significantly, coaching being almost a badge of honor, coaching being a sign that the organization is believing in an individual or a team and are affording coaching for them because they do want to see them reaching their highest potential.
One of the things that continuing what you both have said, Renee and Magda, is this democratization of access to coaching, because it's a recognition that if we all have blind spots, especially in a world where the context is constantly changing. And so being able to have insight from another person into our blind spots, so because we don't see ourselves clearly, that's so important. And I think executives at the highest level are recognizing that for the entire organization.
What a pleasure it is to be with both of you ladies this morning. Boy, I wish we had so much more time together. So thank you. So I've got a couple questions here, and let's start with Magda. So this is sort of interesting. I'm curious, I'm sure the audience is curious as well. What trends are you seeing? Because you really have your finger on the pulse of the way coaching is being applied and deployed. And I'm curious, and I'm sure, like as I said, others are, what trends are you seeing?
Yeah, I've been in the coaching business for 16 years. It's a little, I don't know if I should say even that, but here we go. There are some very significant changes, in fact, how coaching is being applied. What we saw early on was coaching applicable primarily to individuals. Even in an organizational setting, it was reserved for C-suite or, mind you, quite remedial. In other words, if there was a problem, you would get a coach. Right now, the tenor changed very significantly, coaching being almost a badge of honor, coaching being a sign that the organization is believing in an individual or a team and are affording coaching for them because they do want to see them reaching their highest potential. The other shift is definitely, again, from individual to team. I think that it was maybe a little bit naive to think that one individual within the organization has a superpower to change the entire organization by her or himself. While the team, if they have the shared purpose, which defines the team, of course, and are working with the coach to accomplish that, then it becomes more of an approach. Rather than the special, specific application. The other point I would make is that coaching is being recognized as a great support for any change initiatives. So as such, again, is becoming part of a greater portfolio of different kinds of activities that can be taken by the organization in order to see a shift. And that definitely move from individual contribution to more of a community approach is something also visible in coaching through building coaching cultures in organizations, training individuals in applying coaching skills, building internal coaching practices, and again, bringing team coaching, which of course ICF is proud of releasing the team coaching competencies recently. So yeah, I would say that these are the big changes that I saw. And one last one, I can't help myself, Renee, you know me enough, and it is application of coaching in social progress arena by organizations for-profit organizations through their corporate social responsibility programs, and also by not-for-profit organizations really engaging coaching as a huge amplifying force to accomplish social progress.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Magda. And I just want to comment on that because as someone who's been in HR and who's been implementing coaching programs and several different interventions across organizations, coaching has, what I've seen over the last, I'll go along with Magda, 16 years. What I've been seeing is this sort of this evolution also. So it's not just, to your point, Magda, it's not just for the C-suite. We're seeing many, many organizations deploy coaching across the board, even from like a peer-to-peer perspective, so that anyone can have a coach, right? So everyone learns this competency or capability, and it becomes a superpower, if you will. So it's fascinating to see this sort of population happening, or it's almost like a popcorning, across organizations. So thank you for sharing that, Magda. So Sun Yin, a question for you, because you do a lot of advisory work with executives, right? So you have a unique window into how these leaders are thinking about coaching, deploying coaching in their organizations, and even just perhaps some additional thoughts that they might have about coaching and where it's headed. What are some of the things that you've noticed?
So, building on what Magda said, and by the way, every time I listen to Magda, I always learn something new or see a different perspective. Magda, you are you're amazing, and I'm so proud and honored to be your friend and learn from you. All right, so one of the things that continue what you both have said, Renee and Magda, is this democratization of access to coaching, because it's a recognition that if we all have blind spots, especially in a world where the context is constantly changing. And so being able to have insight from another person into our blind spots, because we don't see ourselves clearly, that's so important. And I think executives at the highest level are recognizing that for the entire organization and deploying coaching, whether it's through just an entire cadre of coaches coming in, or working with organizations like Limitless Minds or Better Up, when any of these other technology fused with coaching at scale type of organizations. There's more and more receptivity and embrace of that. But on a day-to-day basis, what I'm noticing when working with the C-suite or the CEO or even the board of directors is this recognition that, before, those in leadership positions operate more like captains of a team. The captain of the team runs the team, deploys the organization strategy. But now, those in leadership positions, those in the C-suite, actually have to operate like the coach of the team, because there's no leadership playbook anymore. The old leadership playbook, how many assumptions have we embraced that need to be rethought or chucked? And the playbook has to be in context. And so they have to be also taking on. So a lot of my coaching now is, I notice more and more, it's working with them to learn how to coach, be a better coach for their teammates. And you're seeing that. And then in the enterprise programs, you're seeing that, all right, if at the C-suite level, they're being better coaches for their direct reports and enabling that communication, that idea of what Alan Mulally calls working together, then the next level, how does it cascade all the way down throughout the organization? So there's fluidity and there's really drawing on each other. So it's the idea that it's no longer just nice to have those in leadership positions, the managers, director levels, VPs and up, just be captains of the team. It's now an imperative that everyone learn how to be coaches to their team. And that goes back to what Magda said. I can't emphasize enough what she said. Coaching empowers in two contexts. It empowers the person receiving the coaching, but if we allow it to be, then it also empowers the person who is coaching and learning how to coach. It is one of the most untapped undertapped personal leadership development opportunities. And in today's world, when there's so much happening and we're so pressed for time, what better way for leadership development to happen than in situ, through helping that person learn how to coach and mentor their teams.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Sonia. And as you're speaking, it just reminds me, I don't know why, but for HR colleagues out there, right, I went to competency model and framework in my mind. I go to visuals, and I think about how we work so hard to embed the competency of talent development, right? And now we're working, I worked on implementing coaching as an executive competency. And what I'm hearing from you is like, that's a great way to take talent development to a next level and make that other, competency, capability, superpower, whatever you want to call it, right? And help integrate it into the culture and the talent you're developing and making it a superpower for all. So thank you for sharing that. Magda, over to you. And Sonia, and I had a question come in for you, but I'm gonna just hold that for one moment. Actually, you know what? I'll ask it now. Sonia Robinson asked, how do you see individual executive coaching change with the increase of digital coaching platforms and coaching broker agencies? And maybe we could start with Sonia and Magda. I'd like to hear your perspective on that as well.
I don't have as much experience in answering that question with digital platforms, and I mean, I've seen it being the digital platforms as a way of coaching at scale and democratizing access to coaching.
Yeah, right.
But I haven't really seen that, at the senior level. It's still that, because they can make that sort of investment, still very much that bringing in individual coaches to be able to work with that C-suite or that team.
Yeah. Magda, any thoughts you'd like to add?
I hope it's my friend Sonia Robinson in Switzerland. I would agree with Sonia, and I think that coach brokers, and the platforms, they are really becoming very, very good at attracting very, very senior coaches as well.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Yeah. No. Oh no, Magda.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on with my internet today. I agreed with Sonia, basically.
Okay.
I agree with Sonia. I think that the coaching platforms are becoming really good at scale, but also are offering coaches at the very high level. So as we know in coaching, a lot depends on the good fit between the coach and the individual, and that choice point is still very much available to individuals at any level of the organization. Yeah, very well said. And I think what I'm seeing is in the HR partners that I speak with, it's a great way to deploy coaching more broadly across the manager level, supervisor level, to sort of warm them up to coaching, warm individuals, help ready their bench strength for larger assignments, and then still continue to have executive coaching working with the leaders above. And to your point, Magda, yeah, great opportunities for coaches too to work within those organizations. So thank you. So, all right, Magda, back to you. Here's one for you. So what is one suggestion you would like to make to the HR business partners in our audience about coaching? And I'm thinking about, you made a great point about change, and the day in the life of a business partner, it requires so much agility and flexibility and change to adapt. I just thought that would be such a great question for you to sort of speak, to share some thoughts on that with our business partners that are out there. Sure. I think that what's really important, and I think we heard it from Sonia, and we heard it in the opening couple of minutes from Mikhail, is that the environment around us is changing, and HR professionals need to evolve along with those changes. That approach to leadership, that approach to community rather than individual. These are huge changes. The whole mental health issue is real. And again, many people would be looking to HR professionals to say, you know, how can I help? What's needed there? So my advice would be to learn about how building coaching culture within an organization can really benefit. And I mentioned before our studies with Human Capital Institute, we did a series of studies, 7 of them, exactly around building coaching cultures, coaching for millennials, internal coaches practices, coaching for change management. So I would invite everybody to go to coachingfederation.org and check our research. It's research. It's not anecdotal only, although we have a lot of good anecdotes, but there are some great examples and deep research going into why coaching is such a powerful methodology. It's not silver bullet. I also want everybody to know that. There are other applications that are more appropriate in different situations, but coaching does empower. It does empower. It comes to build that different attitude that in turn, as San Yin said, individuals become captains of the teams and feel responsible for the success of a team, which means success of each and every person, first or second support in scoring the goal.
Fantastic. Thank you, Magda. Well said. Very well said. So San Yin, this one's for you. What suggestion would you like to make for the talent management professionals that are out there in our audience?
Well, one, I want to underscore one of Magda's slides. HR stands for Heroes to the Rescue. HR professionals, talent management professionals out there, you are all heroes. Like, please know, and it's hard because you know what? People are the most powerful assets in our organization. We know that. It's not the technology, it's the people who create the technologies. It's not the financial spreadsheet, you know, those are powered by people. So people are the most powerful assets in our organization, and you in your work are cultivating, fostering that. But people are complex, right? It's not, we're not always dealing with the tangibles. We're sometimes dealing with the intangibles. And so you are heroes. Please stop and recognize that, because I know you work so hard that sometimes I just want to pause and say, own your awesomeness. Let's just like celebrate you, all right? And then in terms of the suggestion, we are in an environment that has so much uncertainty and so much unknowns. So therefore, the type of talent or the traditional categories of talent, how do we think beyond that? How do we see beyond that? So that when we have a new person coming into our team, or a person who has been there for 20 years, how do we see the things that they are able to do, or that they may not even realize they're able to do, but that are actually critical for the success of our organization? And so when I think about that, it's, you know, our narrative up to now has been, you have to, when we have a person coming in, the usual narrative is you have to prove yourself and prove your worth. Well, what if we flip that and we say, I'm going to assume you have tremendous value. I'm going to assume you have worth. Let's discover what that value is and how you deploy it. So by assuming it exists, you will be better able to see it. But if you assume they have to prove it, we're going to narrowly confine us to the traditional categories. Value and worth exists. Assume talent exists, or you wouldn't have hired them in the first place. They won't be part of your organization. So don't make them try to prove themselves. And if they're high achievers, they're going to be doing that for themselves anyways. They're going to try to prove themselves. So our job is to unlock and unleash by assuming there's worth. Let's just discover what it is, discover that awesomeness.
That is so well said. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we had a question come in. We have about 2 minutes left, so I will put it out there. So Lizette Neuwenhouse, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, has this question, and if we can't fully get to it, I promise we will get it back to you in a message. So one more, coaching, especially if externally supported, can have a big influence on driving a company's culture. So Magda, you just talked about that. Have you ever seen it used to drive cultural change? How do we know that the coaches drive towards the change that is needed?
So I'll take a first crack at it. The very important part of a coaching process is that discovery, is to agree of what is the purpose of coaching and what is a desired outcome. Any good coach will tell you that taking the word of a client, the first word of the client, may not get it to the bottom of it. So that discovery, back to San Yin's discovery response, is a super, super important step, and one of the very first steps in a coaching process. And then there is also being able to determine what is the desired return. And I would not say return on investment really, but return on expectation. So many times, and especially if we're talking about culture, the return is not necessarily or not immediately monetary. Eventually it does, but the immediate return is on expectation of a shift. It's an expectation of what we want to see, what this future looks like. So being able to have that picture, again, very early stage of a coaching engagement, may support then the ability to measure if coaching was useful. And yes, coaching is often used for shifting the culture within the organization.
And to build on that, in order to make those shifts and having to set those expectations or understand discover what those expectations are and what we're working towards, it's never a solo endeavor because we don't see ourselves clearly. So even our coachees are not going to see themselves clearly. So one thing that I do, and I've seen other great effective coaches do, is get multiple data points, not only at the beginning of the process, but throughout. So when I'm working with the CEO, I always say, I want regular touch base with also the chair of the board or someone on the board who's seen, because the CEO reports to the boards. The board is a stakeholder, and also the CHRO or the chief people officer. And so we are getting multiple data, and we might have to make a shift right in the middle, because how many times have we in our personal, just even our personal lives, our organizations, we say, oh, here's the thesis. So we're going to operate based on this thesis. And then halfway through, new data comes in and you realize the thesis is a little bit off. We have to pivot. And so that pivot can't just happen with just your client. It has to be through communications. And again, back to team. Why won't we also bring in the different team members and their data points throughout while working with an individual, be able to constantly understand and make those shifts and pivots in the moment.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I know we're at top of the hour, Lizette. Thank you for that fantastic question. If you like, join me in a discussion lounge and we can talk about some specific case studies. I'm happy to share those with you and how to ensure your coaches are driving towards those changes. San Yin, Magda, what a pleasure. Thank you so much. What a valuable conversation. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Magda, I'll see you shortly. And
yes.
Audience, thank you so much, and blessings to all.